Hi there, everyone. I'm Dr. Donnie Wilson, and welcome to How Humans Heal. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about 3 of the top susceptibilities to testing positive for the HPV human papillomavirus. In another video, I'm going to cover 3 more susceptibilities. So I want to focus in today on these 3 things that I find in particular make women more susceptible to testing positive. And actually, it's not just women, it's men too. So we need to be thinking about this, first of all, because when someone finds out that they're testing positive for HPV, oftentimes the first things we think of is, how did this happen to me? And who gave it to me? And why is this testing positive or staying positive? And what I want to encourage you to do is to start asking the question, what? What is making you susceptible to the virus? Because as you've probably learned in others of my videos, it's possible for the human body to clear the HPV virus, to get it to negative and stay negative. That we've established already. So how do we do that? Is by figuring out, why is testing positive for you at this point in your life? What is making you vulnerable or susceptible? What are the underlying reasons why it's there, right? It's very easy to focus on the virus and be like going right after the virus. And yes, there's many things we can do to go directly after a virus. Antiviral, herbals, nutrients, homeopathic remedies, peptides. We can go right after the virus directly. Dietary changes and so on. But then I find that might give us temporary results. But we're not just going for temporary results. I'm going for, we want to clear the virus and keep it from coming back again. If we want to accomplish that, we have to be thinking deeper, not just going antiviral. We need to go, how do we protect you from it? Why is it sneaking in? How is it getting back into your system when your body should be able to protect you from it? You see what I mean? So I want you to start to think about it differently, because when you start thinking about it differently, I think you're going to find that you have different steps you're going to take, different things you're going to want to do that actually is going to help improve your overall health and make sure that you're protected from this virus, not just now, but into the future. And if you're exposed to the virus again in the future, we need to make sure that your body's protected from it. So that's the whole point of this. That's the reason why I do what I do. And I believe that's why we have so many success cases in my practice, is because we're asking different questions and we're finding different ways to support both men and women to fully protect themselves from HPV. So let's dive in to the 3 top susceptibilities that I find are often getting missed. Okay, often getting missed in cases that I see. And I want to put this out there because I want you to start knowing that you should consider this in your case. And if you think these susceptibilities might be going on for you, then you're going to want to take the next steps. And to know that this is not something that's addressed. These susceptibilities are usually not considered in standard medical practice, and the tests to identify them are usually not offered in standard medical practice. So this is already going to be you becoming your own health advocate and saying, I understand what's available in the standard medical system. I want to do something more for my body, and I'm going to step outside of the standard medical practice and start asking the hard questions and saying, why is this showing up? And I was talking to a woman the other day who called me because she's been testing positive for HPV over 26 years. She's had abnormal cells on her cervix over and over again. She's been through LEEP procedures numerous times. In fact, she went through a LEEP procedure just 8 months ago because of CIN23. They removed the abnormal cells. She went back 6 months later to be rechecked. And guess what? The cells are back again because the LEEP procedure doesn't kill the virus. And so the abnormal cells come right back again. And now she's in a situation where the doctor's saying, oh, you need a hysterectomy. But you know what? A hysterectomy doesn't kill the virus either. So I see patients who've had a hysterectomy, and again, the abnormal cells come back again. So while these procedures help remove abnormal cells, they don't remove the virus. And that's why women are going through repeat procedures. And that's why I'm so passionate about saying, we have to help you get to the bottom of this and actually solve this. And so I can create these videos and start helping you think about this differently and help you to know where you can get access to help that's going to help you solve this once and for all and not have to go through repeat procedures or be at risk of cancer constantly in your life. It should not have to be that way. And my patients have proven that to me. Okay, so the 3 susceptibilities that I want to cover today. 1 is nutrient deficiencies. Now, I'm a naturopathic doctor and clinical nutritionist and midwife, so I pay attention to nutrient deficiencies. You have to keep in mind that most practitioners are not trained in nutrient deficiencies and are likely not testing for them. So it's no wonder that you might be going into your gynecologist and they're not going to test you for nutrient deficiencies. To find out if you have nutrient deficiencies, you're going to need to do different testing. Some of that testing can be done at a standard lab and maybe even covered by insurance. But you have to have a practitioner who can guide you to do the right tests, to get the right information, and then guide you to take the right doses to address those deficiencies so that you don't just end up in a repeating back into that nutrient deficiency all over again. So I encourage you, please don't try to do this all on your own. I know it's tempting to be like, okay, I can figure this out on my own. There's certain things you might be able to figure out on your own, but I'm telling you, it's worth it to work with someone like me who can guide you specifically. And the protocol that I'm talking you through here, I've started to train other practitioners, but majority of practitioners, even functional, integrative, holistic practitioners out there, if they have not done a certification course with me, they also probably don't have this information. So don't be surprised if you're an naturopathic doctor or homeopath or chiropractor. They, I'm sure, will be helping you somewhat, but they likely don't have this information unless they've done a training program with me. And you're welcome to send them over to do the training program with me, or you can work with me and then I can give you the information so they can help you. Okay. So I never want you to be feeling like you don't have the information you need. There are ways to get it, and there are ways for other practitioners to get this information as well. So nutrient deficiencies, we need to be doing the right tests. Like, for example, yes, on regular blood work, you can test for vitamin D, and that one more practitioners are willing to order, but it's not always covered by insurance. So you can start with like, hey, do you have low vitamin D? If so, take vitamin D. That's a simple one. But other tests are not so simple on the blood work. And so a lot of practitioners don't realize, for example, you might not have anemia, but you might have low iron levels. But the test that we run is not iron. It's called ferritin. So we have to be able to get your practitioner to order a ferritin level, or you can become my patient and I'll order the ferritin for you. So we have to do this with each and every nutrient. In fact, there's also specific specialty testing for what's called intracellular nutrients. Because when we go to a standard lab and do blood work and get our blood drawn, they're looking for nutrients in the bloodstream. So often I see practitioners order a B12 level in the bloodstream, but that doesn't give us the right information. That only just tells us how much B12 is floating through your blood at that point in time. Very often it's too high, but that doesn't mean you have too much B12. This is why I mean we have to be working with practitioners who understand how to interpret this and order the right tests. So it's not the correct test to just order a B12 level. We need to be ordering the correct tests. So you need to be able to be working with a practitioner who can teach you, and then to understand what the results mean and to understand what the correct dosing is. So please know the nutrient deficiencies can absolutely make you more susceptible to HPV virus. Oftentimes, I find people have many different nutrient deficiencies, don't even realize it. And again, sometimes we need to do what's called a micronutrient panel, where we can test A to Z, all the nutrients, from vitamin A, C, zinc, selenium, all the way down the list of nutrients to find out. Now, that's not from a standard lab. That's a specialty lab that's out of pocket, and you can finally know your vitamins, antioxidants, mineral levels of your body, not just in your bloodstream, but inside your cells. This is a game changer. right? Like you would think when you're going for blood work at the lab that they're going to look for your nutrient levels, but they're not. When you go for blood work at the lab, they're only looking for red blood cells, white blood cells, liver function, kidney function. Those are the main things that you're getting from the standard lab. It's not going to run all your nutrient levels. So we want to know all your nutrients. Really best is to go to a specialty lab and get a micronutrient panel. This is something I can order for my patients and can really help us understand what is out of balance in your body and why and how to address it. Okay, so please know that there's much more information than you might realize that's going on with your nutrient levels in your body. The second susceptibility that I really find so often and these cases that I work with are cases, again, of women who've been dealing with this virus and going through a lot over a long period of time, and they've usually tried a lot of other things first.
I know how scary it is to test positive for HPV virus, and I know it's even more concerning when your gynecologist tells you that all you can do is wait and see if it continues and if it causes abnormal cells. That's exactly why, as a naturopathic doctor and midwife, that I feel so passionate about helping women to be proactive about protecting themselves from HPV virus. I've been helping thousands of women for the past 23 years to do exactly that and to get HPV to negative and stay negative. And that's why I developed the Say Goodbye to HPV online program, where you can get access to my proven protocol from wherever you are in the world. So I hope you will come check out the Say Goodbye to HPV program, review the success cases, and see if this is going to be a good fit to help you get your life back from HPV.
The second susceptibility that I often find is hormone imbalances. And when I'm saying hormone imbalances, it could really be any hormone in your body. You name it. It could be thyroid imbalance. It could be insulin and glucose imbalance. It could be cortisol imbalances, and it could be estrogen, progesterone, testosterone imbalances. So right here, I want to especially focus on the ovarian hormones, because this is another thing where you would think I'm going to go get regular blood work. They're going to be testing for estrogen, progesterone in regular blood work. But that doesn't give you the right information, because when we look at estrogen and progesterone in standard blood work, it's usually in the range. So it will come back looking normal. And then you're like, well, everything's normal. And yet you might not feel good. So I would go first by, are you having symptoms related to estrogen and progesterone? Are you having any PMS, menstrual cramps, heavy bleeding, irregular cycles, peri-menopausal symptoms, postmenopausal symptoms, vaginal dryness, any of this and more, endometriosis type symptoms, PCOS, migraines? We need to be looking at your estrogen and progesterone, but it's not going to show in standard blood work. We're going to need to do a specialty urine hormone panel. You can do it from home and you send it in, and it can finally tell us what's going on, not just with your ovarian hormones, but also how your liver is detoxifying your estrogen. Because estrogen is a hormone that has to go through the liver, and everybody's liver processes estrogen differently based on your genetics and other factors. So we need to see, is there an issue with how estrogen is getting metabolized in your liver? We can see that in the urine, because the urine shows the liver metabolites of estrogen. And then we can actually find out, is your estrogen too high? Is your estrogen too low? Is your progesterone too low? Is your testosterone too low? What's happening with these hormones? How's your liver detoxification? Do you have too high of toxic estrogen? How's your methylation? This is information we can get from a urine hormone panel that's a few $100s, which is game-changing for your life and your future. It's so worth it to know. And instead of guessing what's happening with your hormones, because I think so many of us are feeling like, oh, I can't spend this money, so I'm just going to guess. But then what happens is you're spending months or years wasting money, being stressed and going through these procedures. It's so much more valuable to invest in a test that's going to give you the information, because then we know how to solve this for you. And it can be unique for each person. Not everybody has high estrogen with HPV. Sometimes it's with peri and post-menopause when estrogen levels start to drop that makes women more susceptible to HPV. So we need to understand your specific hormone imbalance and help you to address it. And it can be addressed oftentimes with dietary changes, herbs, nutrients, or natural hormones that don't have risk associated with them. Other cases are women who've been on the birth control pill or have a hormonal IUD. And those cases, the ovaries have been turned off and the synthetic hormones in the birth control pill and the IUD have taken over. Those synthetic hormones have risk associated with them. So we may need to help guide you to come off of those synthetic hormones to allow your ovaries to start working again, to give you natural estrogen, progesterone, and then help you to optimize that, because this is not something that's taught in standard gynecology. They usually are teaching women to rely on synthetic hormones instead of their own ovaries. What I do, and this is what I've been doing all for the past couple decades, again, as a naturopathic doctor and midwife, is help women to optimize their ovarian function, which is definitely possible. I see women, we're working on helping them fend off HPV. They end up improving their fertility, getting pregnant easier, decreasing their PMS, decreasing their menstrual cramps, decreasing their heavy bleeding. All of that gets better because we're optimizing ovary function, and it's absolutely achievable. I can do that by guiding you one-on-one or in my Say Goodbye to HPV program. So I want you to know this is possible, and it's worth it to invest in yourself to understand this, because you're not only going to be able to learn what your body needs now, but what your body needs into the future to keep you feeling good. The third susceptibility that I want to cover today is the microbiome. This is huge because more and more research is showing this connection between the gut and the vagina. And here we are talking about a virus that's living in the vagina and causing abnormal cells on the cervix and the vaginal cells potentially. Why is that virus hanging out there? Well, because your healthy microbiome, the healthy environment, is not protecting you. It's allowing that virus to be there when it shouldn't. So we have to be asking what's going on with the vaginal microbiome and what's disrupting it, and how's your gut microbiome, what's disrupting it? Well, the microbiome in all areas of our body can easily be disrupted by stresses of various types and toxins of various types, which leads me to say, definitely watch for my next video where I'm going to go into stress and toxins as susceptibilities to HPV. But for now, let's focus on this microbiome. It's also going to get thrown off by antibiotics, whether that's oral antibiotics, vaginal antibiotics, also from things like use of spermicides and other substances vaginally that disrupt the microbiome, right? Even just having sex can disrupt the microbiome. So here we have this vaginal area of our body that we're really not taught how to maintain a healthy microbiome in a healthy environment. We pay so much attention to maintaining a healthy oral environment, or I hope we do, at least with brushing our teeth and flossing and getting our teeth cleaned, but we don't have a way, aren't taught how to keep a healthy environment vaginally. And that's why I really feel like this is so important as women to say, to really own this part of our body and be not embarrassed by it, but feeling empowered by it. This is a part of our body that can be helped, and we can do, there are things we can do to protect ourselves, and not more chemicals. We don't need to be using more chemicals and antibiotics and things like that. We need to be using diet changes, because ultimately what we eat influences the bacteria living in our gut and the bacteria living in our vagina. Also, how we support our immune system has an influence on the health of the microbiome in our gut and vaginally. We can, if we're not digesting our food well, if we're under a lot of stress, we're not digesting our food well, it overfeeds the bacteria. That disrupts the bacteria vaginally as well. So these are all factors to consider. Now, a lot of you will say, okay, yes, maybe some of you have had BV or vaginal yeast, and you go into the gynecologist and they do a vaginal culture. It's a swab where they look under the microscope and they can look for bacteria and yeast. And sometimes they can identify them, and then they might give a treatment, which would be antibacterial or antifungal. But then it repeats, right? How many of you had BV or yeast over and over and over again? Because it's not a complete solution. It might kill those microbes for a short period of time, but it's not restoring a healthy environment. So we need to take it another step and say, how do we help restore the environment so that you're not susceptible to repeat infections? Because studies definitely show that when women have BV and yeast, they're at increased risk of HPV. We have to solve that. And it's solvable. But the standard culture that you get at the gynecologist is likely not going to help you with that. And the standard treatment's not likely to help. We need to actually take a step back and actually be strategic about this. There are specialty tests. There's a DNA analysis, which is a vaginal swab you send into a lab where they can actually do a full microbiome analysis of your vaginal microbiome. So we can see, is there an overgrowth of certain bacteria or yeast? If so, how do we address them? Every single time I submit this panel, we get different results for each person. Of course, because we all have unique bodies and we all have unique experiences. So if we really want to know what's going on with your vaginal microbiome, we need to do that panel. It's so much more specific than the vaginal culture you'll get at the gynecology office. So especially if you have any kind of vaginal discharge or history of vaginal infection or repeat HPV, this is a test that we need to do so we can understand what's really going on and help you solve it once and for all, because there are so many things we can do. We can use different vaginal suppositories. We can use herbs and nutrients. We can be anti-inflammatory. We can heal the gut and the gut microbiome so that you can actually maintain a healthy environment that prevents HPV from coming back, even if you're re-exposed. Because if you have a healthy environment in your body and you have adequate nutrients and you have balanced hormones and you have a healthy vaginal environment, that HPV does not stand a chance. That HPV is going to be running for the hills because it cannot survive when you have addressed these susceptibilities. So I really encourage you to be thinking this through. Make a list for yourself now. What do you need to be considering? What do you need to be looking into? Who can help guide you? And what I can tell you is that I help patients around the world. I can do phone and video. I have patients not just in the United States, but you name it, from Canada to India to Australia and everywhere in between. Because these things can be done from home and sent in, and I can guide you online. I also created an online program called Say Goodbye to HPV, which is an amazing thing. I can be guiding many of you all at once, and you can help each other. Like, it doesn't have to just be one person at a time. I can help so many of you at once to learn how to use these tools to help you heal yourself and protect yourself from HPV. So please, if you're interested and you'd like to learn more, I'll put a link down below. You can always go to drdoni.com, doctordoni.com, or go to hpv.drdoni.com, and you're going to find so many resources and testimonials from women that I've worked with so that you can see that this is really working and it can work for you too. So again, make sure you subscribe to How Humans Heal so you don't miss my next video, where I'm going to go into the 3 more susceptibilities to HPV that I do not want you to miss. And I definitely want you to know that it's possible to address. So you can not only have hope that you can get beyond this virus, but you can have hope that you can understand what your body needs to solve other health issues and improve your well-being overall. Thanks again for joining me for How Humans Heal. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode.
Thanks for listening to How Humans Heal. If you liked this episode, leave a rating and a review. And for more resources, visit drdoni.com.